What is your next step? See, every time I leave a meeting or any time I sit down and read a book or a conference, I always want to ask myself, what am I going to do next? I hate it when I've invested time and I don't know what to do with what I just got. I might as well just be watching TV or a movie and just chalk it up to entertainment. What are my next steps? What are your next steps when it comes to your financial plan? We're always going to talk about your financial journey, our trademark process, the Financial Enhancement Group, the family focus process. We're going to deal with your life after work, the annual tax plan, the investment playbook. Life happens, the good and bad and ugly in life, and we're also going to take care of the legacy plan. Folks, I don't know what life is like for you, but it can be chaos for most of us. We're going to give you things you need to consider today, things you're going to want to consider in the future, and if we choose to work together, what FEG will do for you. Do not forget to go to yourlifeafterwork.com, get signed up for your next steps meeting, or give us a call at 800-928-4001. Where have you been, Joe Clark? Well, it's a great question. You know, there's an old expression in the business world, if you study entrepreneurialism at all, that you can either work in the business, that's looking at the day-to-day things, or you can work on the business, the things that are going to make the biggest change, biggest impact to your business or the people that you serve. I believe that legacy planning is one of those biggest things, and that's what we're going to devote this segment to. And it's really what I spent the last 7 months of my life working on. Years and years ago, I grew up in Muncie, Indiana. When I say grew up, I was there till I was 16. And we were city kids for all intents and purposes. I was raised a Muncie Central Bearcat, went to Muncie Northside because of the changing of the districting, if you will. And at the end of my sophomore year, we moved up to a farm community up outside of Lafayette, Indiana, and moved into a town that was called Otterburn. And we never had money at either place. We one of the advantages I always tell people that we work with that you get is that I come from not knowing how to rob Peter to pay Paul. Don and I, when we formed the Financial Enhancement Group, had to use all the apostles. Right? It's not just Peter and Paul. We knew how to use them all because it was constantly moving money. We didn't have a lot of resources as kids. We didn't have a lot of resources as we started this company. But I still liked people, and I still understood things. And I got to Benton County, and I fell in love with farmers. You know, the nicest, the families that seemed to have done the best and had their stuff together, had dirt under their fingernails half the time and drove trucks to work or to school as opposed to cars that were nicer than teachers, the experience that I had in Muncie. And it was just a different breed of people. But I fell in love with farmers in the farm community. And we lost 2 farms in Benton County while I was there my junior and senior year, both because Dad died and the way the estate tax code was written, the surviving spouses had to sell the farms in order for the taxes to be paid. And I just thought that was wrong, cruel, unusual punishment, and it really kind of fueled who I was. So I went to IU, to Indiana University, with the intent of going to law school to become an estate planning attorney. One, I didn't like the academic institution concept so well, but 2, Reagan changed the tax code in '86, and both of those farms would have been saved. And I couldn't help but think about how those people must have felt, that they lost farms that were in their families for multi-generations, that were gone over taxes, that were suddenly not gone. See, the rules changed, and it had a great impact on people's lives, in this case negatively, that could have been very, very positively. So I have always been focused on the estate planning side of life. And when you sit down with us in the early 2000s, right, so the Financial Enhancement Group was founded in 1997. I would have asked you about your legal documents, and you would have probably said, Joe, here's my will or here's my trust. Most of the time they were outdated. Many times people had none that they knew of that had been prepared for them. But we always talk to them about that legacy plan. When something happens to you, who do you want to get the money? I'm sure I heard that question from somebody else and have repurposed it. But that's what I ask. thousands of times, literally over the last 35 years of my life. When something happens to you, who do you want to get the money? And that is really how my industry still looks at the legacy plan, if you will. Now, some of them are like me and recognize that a legacy is more than just money. It's leaving values and hopes and beliefs and charitable intent. It's not just about the buck or the farm ground or the asset. But the bottom line is, as I started in this industry, there were things coming from a family that didn't have a lot of resources that I didn't understand. And I was 21 when I got in the industry. I hadn't thought about the fact that there is a period of my life where I would likely live to where I wasn't able to make the best decision for me and my family that I could make before. That my mind would begin to slow down and hopefully not deteriorate, hopefully not any of the most horrific things you can imagine of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's or, ALS, none of that stuff. Just basic dementia. So when my first trust was created back in 2002, the Joe Clark Trust, it had 22 pages, and a page and a half was devoted to what happened to me if I was still alive, but mentally or physically incapacitated. And that always concerned me. I mean, it really, really did. But still what concerned me was who was going to take care of me while I was still alive. I will tell you, in 35 years of being in this industry, I know that there are people who take their family to court for incompetency or doctors for incapacity. I know that happens. It just doesn't happen generally with the families that I've dealt with. So in 35 years, unless you were in an institution or in a coma in a hospital, I've yet to see somebody actually sign off to take away your powers, which means you're still in control the day you shouldn't be in control, or you're deceased and gone. So I started looking at this going, okay, I agreed to help the families that we serve with their financial journey. That's not up to a certain point and then we stop. That's their financial journey. It's until God calls them home, till they leave this earth. What is it that I am obligated to do at various stages along the way? And we've got our family focus process and the 5 critical elements to be able to make sure that you're not getting caught on one of 5 areas where you may have failure, that you've got the other 4 that are included: your life after work, the annual tax plan, the investment playbook, the good, the bad, and ugly of life, and the legacy plan. They all matter. Missing any one of them can destroy the entire financial journey. I've watched it happen in each of the categories, by the way. Each of those 5, I have watched wreck perfectly good planning on all of the other aspects. That's why that quotation from James Clear is so important to me. Success is never dependent upon one thing, but failure can be, right? Fail in any of those 5 areas, you can get into trouble. The legacy plan is one of them. Now, what I didn't know when I started would be a period of time where I had to question my own mental capacity to be able to make financial decisions. And I have a litany of studies on this if you want to. There are universities that have entire departments over life expectancy, age factors, what it does to financial net worth, behavioral finance, decision making. This is not a new science. It's not a new study. It's just one that most people haven't dealt with. Right, so there are families that I've taken care of literally for 35 years. The Financial Enhancement Group is 25 years old this year. I did it for 10 years before I co-founded the Financial Enhancement Group with Don Hodson. Here we are, right? And all of a sudden, people have reached that stage or that age when they can't make the best decisions for themselves. But there's no real mechanism that anybody's willing to use inside of their trust or wills to be able to assist them in the decision-making process. And quite frankly, most people are rather reluctant to give up that control in the first place. And so I spent the 7 months at COVID, or 7 months of my time not being here with you, working on the business, if you will. And for me, the business is your financial journey. It's what do I need to tell you on this show? What do I need to convey to you in a meeting when you come in? What do I need to do to help with that legacy planning to say, okay, here's where you are and here's how it fits in that overall financial journey to make sure you do wind up with where you are? Because it would be a crying shame to get everything right, to suddenly become incapacitated mentally and make a mistake that caused everything that you'd worked so hard for to be lost. Or to make an estate planning decision that shouldn't have been made, where you were confused over some of the details and suddenly destroyed everything that you had worked for, that your family had worked for. Believe me, I don't bring up instances where I don't have specific examples. These are things that I've sadly seen and witnessed, and we want to prevent that. So we created a trust services division at the Financial Enhancement Group. That's not entirely unique to the financial world, but it really is unique to people who want to use their own grantor trust. So you still go to your attorney, you still have your trust drawn up, but you're able to work with our advisory team to craft craft the message that you want in your estate plan, and then we work with your attorney to make sure that that crafting of the document is drafted correctly in the document. We're not attorneys. We don't play one on TV, radio, or YouTube. We work with your estate planning attorney to make sure that those wishes are actually conveyed inside of the document, if you will. So you now have a legacy plan that deals with not just you while you're able to make decisions, but also you while you're incapable or not functioning to your fullest level, if you will. So that trust services division is there. It's designed for you. I spend a lot of time working on that gradual, or what I call incremental, period of time where we begin to slip. You know, the bottom line is people know that we slow down. And I think there's this belief that it's, you know, I always tell people on this show that you're a sandwich short of a picnic. I think people have this image of Yogi Bear coming up, grabbing the picnic basket and stealing the entire thing. The reality is it's a sandwich short of a picnic, but it's one bite at a time. Right? So we're slipping, we're fading away much more than we are just falling off of a cliff. And because of that, we're not necessarily aware of it. It's kind of like when you gain weight, you know, little by little your pants get tighter. You don't wake up one day and they're not being able to fasten. And that's really what happens with mental deterioration when it comes to that legacy plan. So we have worked with our in-house counsel and many people's estate planning attorneys to figure out how to craft and then draft, they do the drafting obviously, the message of what you want inside of that playbook so you can pass that legacy on. Most importantly, at the Financial Enhancement Group, we found the solution. We were able to give you your next steps, the answer for you to be able to say, Joe, I'm here financially today. I know I want a fiduciary. I know there may be a point in time in the future, not today, but a point in time in the future where I can't make the best decision. What can I do to protect my financial journey? We have that answer. We look forward to sitting down and talking with you at a Next Steps meeting. You can call 800-928-4001 or go to yourlifeafterwork.com. We look forward to engaging and having an important conversation.